Hello. Hi, my name is Tina Kavergich, and I am Northern Stamper. Thank you for joining me. And you know what today is? Comment below if you know what today is. I know. I'm very excited. Today is Takeaway Tuesday, and we are going to make another fancy fold cards. I am so glad that you're able to join me. Comment below that you're here. And after last week's fiasco of recording, let me know that the video and the sound is working well. Thank you very much for joining. I am a Canadian independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator located just east of Toronto in Ontario in a town called Ajax. Anyways, so today we are going to be making a fancy fold card. So I love them. They are fantastic, and hopefully you have all of your items with you. I will go through and I will do step by step and we'll do them together. Anyways, good morning, Carol. Thank you for joining me. And I wanted to let you know that coming up in September, I have got a ton of activities for September, October, November. If you'd like to join me up there, there's a link. And just so that you know and you are prepared, for September's Takeaway Tuesday, we are using the Bottle of Happiness stamp set and the punch that coordinates with that. So if you would like to order that, let me know. I would be happy to set that up with you. I have a few packages left over, and what's really interesting, it says do not machine sort. So when I went to the post office, I didn't want them to crush this because there's something very special in here that we're going to be making a card with. Good morning, Joan and Janet, Suzanne, Liz. Thank you so much for joining me. So make sure you get your package. The link is up above. You might have to scroll through, and just to let you know, I am mailing them out this week so that they will arrive in time. So that is September's Takeaway Tuesday. So if you have any questions, comment below. If you would like a catalog, I have some mini catalogs, and they are great. They have a lot of holiday stamp sets in there. They are fantastic. Or if you would like an annual catalog, I am happy to send one out. Anyways, let's get started making our card. Give me a thumbs up if you are ready, and I'm going to show you what we need to make our fancy fold card today. Okay, so are you ready? Thumbs up. Let's go for a little ride. There we go. Okay, just pop you up. Oh, just don't want you to fall down. That would be bad. Oh no. Sometimes it just doesn't go so great. Anyways, I had to show you some of the great stuff that I made. So I love quilts. My aunt is a fantastic quilt maker, and I did try making a quilt, but you know what? It didn't. I made one, and that was the end of it. So anyways, I went online and I was looking at quilt designs for whatever reason. You know, you go down that black hole. Comment below if you've ever gone online and either through Pinterest or YouTube and you just kind of get sucked into that rabbit hole. I ended up on some site of quilt patterns, and I saw this one quilt pattern and I thought, I'm going to make that into a card. So check that out. I think it turned out really well. So it was a little square and then all the way through. I think it turned out really, really nicely. Anyways, I was so excited. I made some more of these, and I will be posting on my page a few more quilt cards that I made. So let me know. So as I said, my name is Northern Stamper. So if you have any questions, please drop me an email at northernstamper@gmail.com. Whoops, there we go. It seems to be a little bit crooked, and hopefully that you can see everything. What we are going to use today, in your package, hopefully you have your package. Oops. We will be using Lovely and Lasting, and I'm going to be using the sentiments from this stamp set, and I'm going to be using the punch that goes with that. So I have that set up aside. I've grabbed a bunch of different color inks to use. It doesn't matter, as you know, use whatever you like to match your designer series paper. And I also grabbed some ribbon. So depending on what you would like, just hop over to your ribbon selection and check that out. Oh, I had to show you. So I redid my craft room. Some of you saw the new walkthrough, and what I did is I have a bunch of items, little pieces that I used punch out from scrap papers. And what I did is I went to the dollar store and I got one of these little packages that you can slip little items inside. So that's what I did, is I made that from the dollar store. And as I go through and use up my scraps, I'll pop them in here, and it sits on my desk so I can easily grab it. Very simple. What do you think? Well, it's great. What do you use to have all of your little odds and pieces in? So comment below, so I'd like to get some ideas. So let's look at what we need from our package. So we are using Sweet Sorbet. So there is a card base that is Sweet Sorbet. So this is going to be our card base. So make sure you have that. There is a piece of cardstock, another piece of Sweet Sorbet. So have that aside. There are 2 pieces of designer series paper. It's up to you. If you don't want these 2 pieces, you can always flip them over, or if you want, use these designs, these dimensions for another one, and you can cut that out yourself. And we have 2 of those. And I just grabbed some scrap paper. So I got some scrap basic white, just in case I want to make something or stamp something. So always have some scrap paper around. And what I decided to do, I wasn't sure if I wanted to use the flower from Lovely and Lasting on this or something else, or if I was going to use some of these super duper cute little gnomes that I can cut out. Not sure on what I'm going to do yet, but let's go along and get started. So if you're ready, give me a thumbs up so I know that you don't have any running around to do in the last second. You will need your trimmer as we go along, okay? So, thumbs up, let's go. And what we are going to do first is we are going to work with our card base, okay? So we got our card base, and when I mailed it, I did score it. It was just so that it would fit in, but that's okay because this will help us as we go along. So I'm going to need my trimmer here, okay? And what we're going to do, so this is already scored at 5.5. You can double check, and I can see it is already scored at 5.5. I'm just going to take this guy down so it's not moving around. So I have it scored at 5.5. Now I'm going to extend my arm because we're going to do a little bit more of scoring. So let's get that. So I have it scored already, 5.5 for you. We're going to move it over to 6 3/4, and we're going to score at 6 3/4. Now make sure you're using your scoring and not your cutting. There was one time I was online on video and I cut my card instead of scored it. Oh my goodness, the sound that made. So 6 3/4. You know what? Let me write that down for you, and it will make it easier. Okay, so we're going to score at 5.5, which is already done for you. 6 3/4. Okay, so 6 3/4. And then we're going to move it around a little further to 8 3/4. Okay, 8 3/4. So we're going to score it at 8 3/4. And then we're going to score it again at 10. All right, so you got those measurements there. And I'm going to bring it down to 10, and I'm going to score it again. So let's get that up. So I did the score already for 5.5, 6 3/4, 8 3/4, and then you're going to move it all the way down and score at 10 inches. Okay, so you got that all scored for your card base. Give me a thumbs up when you have that. Okay, now because we have our scoring item out, let's move on to the second piece. There we go. I'm just going to bring that out. I'm going to put this off to the side for the first one. And what we're going to do, this is a very simple one. We're going to score at 1/2 and 1 3/4. Okay, 1/2. So sorry, at a half, not 1 1/2. So at a half and 1 3/4. Okay, so let's do that. All right. Oh, good morning, Kathy. Thank you for joining me. Hopefully you'll make this card along with us. And what we want to do is, sorry, it is on landscape, the long way, so that's what we're going to do, as opposed to the portrait. So 1 3/4. So 1 3/4 in the landscape mode. Okay, so the long way. Again, half, and then 1 3/4. All right. All right, so that is great. Fantastic. Now we got those two pieces cut, scored, not cut. We will still need our trimmer so to do some cutting, but in the meantime, let's fold these over. Okay. And what we're going to do is that with this one piece that we did, it's just going to be on itself. So we're going to take the piece, we're going to fold it over, and then again, just a little fold. Okay, so what you're going to have is a little piece that looks like that, like a little J. How's that? Looks like a little J. All right. Got to turn over my sample there. And what we're going to do with this one, this is our card base. So remember, we cut this at 10. We're going to fold this under. Okay. We're going to fold it again under. And then we're going to fold it again. So we're just making those little lines. So what you're going to end up is with a little, what is that, a B? Let's turn it this way. It's a D. Could be a P. Oh, look at that. If you look at it with squinty eyes, it could be a Q. But so that way what we have right now. So we got them all folded under. And what we want to do, once we have it folded, so this becomes a little piece that is going to be kind of glued down. We're going to glue this down with this little flap, that is that 10-inch, onto itself, and we want it to be fairly square. Okay, so let's get our adhesive. Now I'm using Stampin' Seal because I just love it. I find I don't use as much, and it holds really well. So what I want to do is I want to make sure that it's going to be like a little square there. Okay, so let's add some adhesive to this little first flap that we did at the 10 inches. Okay, so I'm going to do a nice flap, fold it under, and I'm going to, oh no, it's already stuck. I'm going to make sure it's a nice square. Okay, and carefully, and then I'm going to push in on that. There we go. Yeah, look at that. Okay, I might have to lift it up a little bit. Hold on. Okay. Want to make sure that it does a nice square. Make it flat, and look at that. The easiest way is make it flat, fold it over, and then press down. And look, there's our B, or our D, or our P. Okay? All right. So you see how it's coming together? See that fancy fold? Very simple. Now, this piece will eventually go on the top, but we can't do that yet until we place our Designer Series paper on here. And what's going to happen is we're going to take our Designer Series paper. Now, if we flip it over. This is just the back, and you can see that it is almost exactly the same size with just a little bit on the top and bottom. The reason I did that is because we are going to be cutting this piece. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay it down just kind of beside, underneath. And what I want to do is I'm going to cut it right where this kind of fold is, so that this piece is going to slip underneath in this hole, and it's going to cover that seam right here. As I mentioned, one thing I learned about in my floral design classes is always hide your mechanics, and that's what we're going to do today. So I'm going to lay this down, and I'm going to make a little pencil mark. And right where that is, what is this? This little fold part is. So I made a little pencil mark. You can barely see it. And I'm going to cut that, and I'm going to use my trimmer. So I'm laying it across at the top, and I'm going to bring this right into the track. That little pencil mark is going right into the track, and I will cut. Okay? Now, if it doesn't quite fit because it's like a smidgen too wide, I can always just cut it down. So it's a little bit tight, so I'm going to cut just a smidgen off. We all know how much a smidgen is, right? It's a little bit more than a hair. Anyways, so I'm making very, very tiny, tiny cuts. Like you can see, very tiny cuts. So to bring that down. And I'm going to check that out again. I'm going to slip it inside. It fits perfect now. So there's no bowing of the paper. So that is absolutely perfect. Turned out great. Okay, so I have it inside. I like to have the Designer Series paper on the inside because I think it kind of finishes up the card. So now I'm going to glue that down. I want a little bit of the cardstock on, a little bit on the top and the bottom, kind of like a little mat. So let's add our adhesive and slide it in to that little square. Okay, and we are going to, I'm looking from the top and the bottom, nicely fits in, and pressing it down. There we go. So it's just when somebody gets the card, it looks much more finished. So now this piece should fit right on top. It is still a smidgen too wide because I wanted a nice little frame around. So I'm going to take off just a little bit on the edge. Okay, so it will make a nice mat with the cardstock. Okay, I just love this paper. This is so cute, so darn cute. It's from Rings of Love. I love these little mushrooms. So now I have a nice frame all the way around. Looks fantastic, doesn't it? I'm going to glue that down and fit it in. Okay, there we go. So it looks like I did the whole thing all the way across, but I didn't. There we go, and it hides the mechanics of that fold. I think the color looks really nice. I love the sweet sorbet with these little mushrooms. Check that out. Isn't that fantastic? All right, so we have our little square. Now let's bring in our other piece of cardstock that we have folded. Remember that little piece, that little J piece? Now what's going to happen is, there was supposed to be a piece on top here. Oh dear. Guess I could always use that on top. Let's see. Or if you have another piece, let's see. You can always put that on top. Oh my goodness. I just realized I missed cutting a piece for your package. Oh, I am so sorry. So what we are going to need is to grab a little piece of designer series paper for the front here. So let's see what we got. Hold on. You know what? Sometimes this happens. Oh my heavens. I am very sorry. So this will go on top. Let's first work on our little J piece. So there, that piece of designer series paper, if we look at it, now fits exactly on top of that cardstock. Let's glue that down onto the cardstock. All right. And I'm making that on the front. There we go. Now, let's see what happens. Guess I could always put a little piece of white there. That actually looks okay. There we go. Or, that one won't work. Let's see what we have. You know what? Sometimes that happens. I guess I do apologize. There should have been a little strip. Oh my goodness. You know what? Maybe take a look in your package. Maybe your strip is in there. I think just myself, I didn't do that little strip. There, look at that. It must be in your package. So take a look in your package for this little piece of designer series paper. And it is, I'm going to have to measure it for you. It is 1 3/4 by 4. So that's 1 3/4 by 4, and that's going to lay right on top there. I bet you it's in your package. I probably just didn't do my own, probably when I cut it. I probably missed that spot. So I'm going to put that on the front. There we go. Yeah, definitely check your package. I think it is on yours. I just may have missed it in mine. And then the piece is going to sit on top. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add adhesive to this J flap here. So let's add some adhesive to the J flap. Okay. And it is going to place it on. There we go. There we go. It looks a little high, so I'm going to lift that up a little bit. If you ever need to lift up your glue, do it very carefully and it will come up. Okay. Going to bring it down a little bit more and place it on. Okay. There we go. I'm going to glue that down. And I'm going to flatten it to see how far it goes over. So that is a little bit far. Flatten it down. There we go. I'm going to line it up actually and then press it down. There. And that's where it will be perfect. Now, if you want, you can always just leave it unglued. Okay. Just make sure you burnish your edges. There we go. Okay. There we go. You can leave it unglued. If you burnish your edges, it will hold flat onto the card there. Okay, or if you want, you can always glue it down. Now what I want to do is I'm going to add my little sentiment, and I'm going to cut out a little gnome, or you could cut out a flower if you like. Let's see. Let's give a gnome a try and see how they turn out. I haven't added anything when I designed this, so I can do this with you together. There we go. Let's look, see if that gnome. Oh, he's kind of cute. Do we want him on there? Do we not want him on there? You know what? I really don't know. So, I got him cut out. I'm going to grab my scrap piece of paper and let's continue on. So I got the little gnome guy cut out. I can always hold on to him for something else. I got my scrap piece of white, and I'm going to stamp a little, the little edge around, and let's choose, what color are we going to choose? Let's choose Sweet Sorbet, and then I will make the wording in Early Espresso. So let's get that out of there. Pop it on the block. There we go. And I am going to put a sentiment on the inside. And what I want to do is I'm going to pick up the Early Espresso that is in these pine cones. Okay. And I'm going to do the sentiment in that color. Okay. So let's do a, thinking of you. Okay. Remember, polymer stamps. Let's put our little cushion guy underneath and stamp that. Okay. And I'm going to punch it out. Let's just do, I love this punch. This punch is fantastic. So I just love this design of this punch. You know what? That looks really good. I don't think I'm going to use my little gnome. I guess I could always use the flower, but you know what? I think I like it the way it is, and I'm going to actually add some of this ribbon. I'm not sure which one. I could do this one. This is a much thicker one, very wide. I think it might be a little bit heavy. So there, what do you think? A little heavy? Okay. The other one I have is like a rope kind. I think I kind of like that. It's a little lighter. Oh, you know what we could always do is wrap it around. Ooh, what a great idea. Let's wrap it around. Let's see how many times we can wrap it. There we go. Okay, let's go like this. Wrap it around once. Wrap it around oh, that one keeps moving. Wrap it around twice. Okay, there we go. Let's make a little knot. There's a little, and now our knot again. Let's see how that turns out. Okay. Interesting. And place that on top. This is a thicker kind of twine, so I'm just going to try and flatten it a little bit. Do we like that? Try and get that a little bit. I'm a little picky when it comes to the way that the tails of my knot lands. I don't know about you. Comment below if it matters which way your tails go. There we go. Okay, that's actually going to hold by itself. Oh, interesting. Let's get some dimensionals. And we are going to add that to the back of the sentiment, and I want it to stick, so I'm going to use quite a bit of dimensionals. There we go. All right, going to use quite a bit because I really want it to stick. Because this twine, I love the twine because it can really, you can really pull it apart and everything, but I really want it to stick. And one of the tricks for this one is that it does fray. It does come apart a little bit, and that will look really cool. And actually, I'm going to fray it a little bit, but I'm going to keep them kind of long, so it's, you know what we could add is a little bit of design. Oh, look, we can always peek him behind, but I still think he doesn't match. I don't know. What do you think? Oh, that's so cute. I kind of like the idea of this not being attached. And if you want, I guess you can always make your put a little piece of white sentiment inside here. Oh, what an interesting idea. Put a little piece of white sentiment in the inside. Let's do that. I'm going to measure that, and we'll do that. So we're going to cut to 2. Let's get some. Where's the thing? 2 3/4 by just under 2 1/2. Let's do that. Look at that. I had not even planned that. So 2 3/4, 2 3/4. And this way I can put a little note on the inside by 2 1/2. All right. See how that fits in there. Okay, it's a little tight, so we're gonna have to go down to maybe 2 1/4. Let's try that again. There we go. Look at that. I can add a little sentiment in there. Make a little note. There we go. And butt that up against the side there. There we go. And of course, let's see what we have in our little container here. Let's add a little bit of embellishments just for some design. There we go. A little bit off to the side here. And there's our card. So what do you think? Here's the kind of our fancy fold card. You can always tuck that in if you like. There we go. Let me know what you think. Very cute, very simple. I didn't think the gnome would fit, but there we go. There's our sentiment. If you've glued it down, that's okay. Then you don't need to add that in the back there. Whoop. There we go. Let me know what you think. I'd love to see what yours turns out. I hope all the pieces were there. If I did miss it, I do totally apologize. It was in an error, and I didn't mean to do that. So hopefully you will have this design, as I always do. I always keep all of my cards, my first ones, and on the back as a sample. So all I have to do is just change the designer series paper. I write on the back the dimensions and everything like that. And then we could always redo this as a Christmas card or an Easter card or something like that. So let me know what you think. Hopefully it wasn't too difficult and we were able to keep up and follow along. So, and ladies, I hope you enjoy your day and have a lovely, lovely time. Don't forget, sign up above for upcoming classes. I don't want you to miss out on anything. Anyways, have a lovely day and I'll see you next time.